Friends, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the Parallel Technical Session 1 in Hall A. It is my great pleasure to introduce the chairperson of this session, Mr. Ravikiran Vaidya, who is a principal engineer of geodynamics, and he has been very instrumental in popularizing the concept of deep foundation testing in India. And he has created a deep foundation testing industry. He has worked on several prestigious projects in the country and in several other countries as well. And he has several papers to his credit. He is the recipient of the prestigious Dinesh Mohan Award for Excellence in Professional Practice for the year 2018-19 by the Indian Geotechnical Society. And he is also the executive committee member of IGS, Deep Foundation Institute, and also on the Bureau of Indian Standards Committee, CED 40. And he has done his ME from MS University, Baroda in 1994. He is also a half marathon runner and national table tennis player in seniors category. Welcome, sir. And co-chair of the session, Dr. Amarnath Hegde, is an assistant professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at IIT Patna. He obtained his PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and MTech from IIT Bombay. He has held the short-term research positions at University of Milan in Italy and UPC Barcelona Tech in Spain, as well as at NUS Singapore. Dr. Hegde published 2 books and more than 50 research papers in reputed international journals and conferences. He is a life member of several professional organizations like ASCE, ISSMG, Indian Geotechnical Society, ISET, etc. And currently, he is the member of Technical Committee on Reinforced Field Structures, TC 218 of ISMG UK. He is also a member of Technical Committee on Geosynthetics of ASCE Geo Institute. So it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Hegde. So welcome Professor Dr. Ravikiran Vaidya as well as Professor Amarnath Hegde. Now I hand over the session to the chair as well as co-chair, please.
Thank you, Professor Srivalsam, and thanks for the introduction as well. I am happy that we have Professor Ayothi Raman, who is well known in his field, for the keynote presentation. I take the opportunity to introduce him. He joined the Department of Civil Engineering in IIT Delhi in 2008, where he is currently working as a professor. And before that, he worked in IIT Guwahati as an assistant professor for 4 years. So he has about 20 years experience in teaching and research in the area of geotechnical engineering. Prior to that, he completed his graduation from Madurai Kamaraj University in 1998 and post-graduation from College of Engineering Guindy in 2005. He completed his post-graduation with a gold medal. He has published about 90 papers in reputed journals and conferences. He supervised about 9 PhD theses, and about currently he is supervising 10 PhD research scholars. He has actively participated in various short courses, workshops, and national and international conferences, and also has delivered invited lectures in these forums. He is also a serving member of BIS for the National Building Code and the codes related to machine foundation. He has been a consultant providing technical advice to various metro projects like Delhi Metro, Kolkata Metro, Lucknow Metro, and other projects of national importance. So we would be very happy to hear you, sir, for the next 30 minutes. And we have a question answer session for the next 5 minutes. So those who are in the chat room or those who have joined online, you may kindly post your questions through the chat room, and we would take up them once the lecture is over. Welcome, Professor Ayothi Raman, and the stage is yours.
Good morning to the chair and co-chair of the session, Dr. Ravikiran and Dr. Amarnath Hegde, and Dr. Srivalsa, the coordinator, and the delegates attending this conference. And in today's talk, I'll be talking about the tunnel foundation interaction in urban areas under earthquake load. And all of us know how this, urban transport, the metro rail projects have become a major urban transport mode actually. And this table shows, the kilometer length of urban metro rail projects all over the world actually. And we can see China is topping. And in India, currently the operational length is about 678 kilometers. And of course, with the ongoing construction plus proposed construction, it is going to be somewhere, 3,250 kilometers, which is almost second, right after China, once it's all completed actually. So this was in 2014. There were 22 cities, where metros were introduced. And we can see these red dots where actually the metros having underground construction. The yellow one are actually completely elevated actually. So there are many projects, where the underground tunnels are to be constructed. Of course, currently the government of India has actually proposed to construct in 31 cities, the metro project. So this is going to be one of the, lifeline of transportation in the country. This is the table summarizing, what is operational and then what are the under construction in several, metro cities, and the approved one and the proposed one. I think the government, even in the recent planning and the budget, you can see that, huge amount of fund has been, diverted for the metro construction. So these are in different cities, where the status of the work actually. And these are some of the cities for the first time they are going to be having a metro projects. So of course, very successfully it is functioning. 389 kilometers of, metro is functional, and then especially there are several lines where the underground, tunnels were constructed actually. So these metro transport can be elevated or underground. I think elevated is the very, convenient way of construction, cheaper, whereas underground construction is the most challenging. But it is unavoidable to have underground, metro construction, because you can see a very densely populated residential area. Obviously, you have to take this, metro underground and below these buildings actually. So obviously the challenge comes, how to ensure the safety of the existing buildings above this tunnel construction, and also the construction cost and time, increases significantly. But without options available, we are forced to go for underground construction as well in some areas of the, metro alignment. And this is, some of the metros where how much stretch of, construction underground kind of there are in construction. And the typical underground soil conditions, the tunnels have to be constructed either in soil and partly in soft rock condition as well. And of course, in Pune, it is also constructed in hard rock conditions. So eventually, we are talking about tunneling in soil as well as, rock conditions actually. This is some of the photographs taken, during the site visit in Delhi Metro constructions. And you can see, the portal was there, and from portal, the tunnel construction is done through TBM actually. So this is the TBM components, the face of the TBM, and the complete, earth pressure balancing TBM is used. And the complete tunneling is, monitored by a computer control system. What is the volume loss, how much phase pressure has to be applied, and how much is the volume loss that is happening. As a result, the settlements are to be monitored at the surface, and the segmental linings are to be installed by the jacking. So this is how the soil, is collected through a mug and a conveyor belt, and the excavation is done actually. And we all know that these tunnels are, having a lining which are segmental, and these are finally, connected together and then installed by the jacking. So the major challenges that we have in urban areas, as we know that we are doing the tunneling underground, there are structures, above ground and the foundations. They come in the close vicinity, and then, so we need to take care of the safety of them actually. So there are two possible scenarios, we can look at it. One is during the tunneling, how much damage would happen to the surrounding buildings and the other subsurface structures, utilities. We need to protect them. But now you can see so much projects have already been, functional. The another possible scenario is these tunnels are existing, and these tunnel and metro alignments have become, obviously they become a major point of, attraction. So a lot of future development happens close to this metro alignment. So eventually any new construction activity also can actually cause, effect on the performance of the existing tunnel actually. So we need to also assess and, ensure the safety of the tunnels after construction also. So this is how you can see, the pile foundations are typically deep foundation, and the tunnels are also, varying from 10 to 30 meter depth. They will come in close contact. As a result, they may have interaction. And if these tunnels are located in a seismically active region, then their interaction under seismic load also need to be understood and then design accordingly. And nowadays buildings with basements are coming, so eventually they will also, come to relatively deeper depth. They can also have an interaction, with the existing tunnel. So we need to study the interaction of the shallow foundation also, and both under static as well as seismic loading. And all of us know in India, what is the significance of seismicity. And some of the cities where metro are already functional, they comes under from zone 2 to zone 4. Delhi comes in zone 4 with the zonal factor of 0.24. And what is the current state of practice with respect to tunnel design and the relevance? If you see, generally people assume that tunnel structure, underground structures are relatively, safe compared to the surface structures when they are subjected to earthquake load. But this has become kind of, question, because there are several case histories where the earthquakes have caused significant damage to the tunnels as well, underground tunnels as well, actually. So let us see some of the case studies, highlighted in the literature. And it is reported that these are the parameters that will affect the seismic response of the tunnels. One is the relative stiffness of the liner and the tunnel depth. Obviously, the peak ground motion parameters of the earthquake, and the duration and the predominant frequency of the earthquake. So those things will be the critical parameter affecting the performance and the damage of the earthquake tunnels. So there are 192 cases of tunnel failure were actually, kind of analyzed and reported, by several researchers, and we will see the summary of that. But typically, when to consider the seismic response of the tunnel, and we need to take into account into the design, is whenever the tunnel depth is less than 50 meters, and typically in soft soils, and if your PGA is greater than 0.15 G or a magnitude is greater than 6, or your epicentral distance is about 50 kilometers, then we need to take into account the seismic design of tunnels actually, according to as follows. These are the case histories, which were analyzed and found out what will be the causes of the damage, whether it is effect of overburden depth, whether it is a effect of surrounding rock conditions, whether it is the magnitude of the earthquake, how it has caused the damage to the different number of tunnels, and what is the influence of the peak acceleration value on the damage, and similarly the epicentral distance. All these were actually categorically discussed by Sharma in June 1991. So it clearly shows that tunnels do undergo damage during earthquakes, so that we need to design them actually. I think there's many people, whoever talks on tunnel design under earthquake load, they will talk about this slide, how the deformation occurs in the tunnels depending on the incident of the wave direction actually. So it could be an axial, or it could be a longitudinal bending, or it could be a ovaling or racking deformation actually. So these things need to be taken and then designed. So this is what I would like to again summarize. What are the different possible interactions that can occur actually. Of course, when you construct a tunnel in soil, that soil tunnel interaction need to be understood even under static load. But metro tunnels are typically at close distance. They are twin tunnels, so therefore the tunnel interaction between the adjacent tunnel, second tunnel also need to be understood, because the in between soil, what we call pillar width, plays a critical role on affecting the the interaction between the tunnel as well. And of course, subsequently, the other two types of problem. Type 1 problem is where tunnel is constructed, then what is the response to the existing foundations? Then the type 2 problem, what we call, is the tunnel is existing and there are some new construction activities, whether it could be an excavation or a foundation loading, and how they will affect the response of the existing tunnel. So, and of course, when they are seismically, active regions, so how the earthquake loading need to be considered. So today's presentation, I'll mostly focus on the seismic design related issues, not the static interaction part. And most of the common methods that are adopted in the analysis of underground structures are, the quasi-static analysis, considering the free field method assumptions. There are also closed form solutions given by, Penzine and Wang, which can be used for a circular cross section of the tunnels. And of course, quasi-static analysis by racking method, considering the deformations can also be used. And obviously, we can do a numerical analysis, incorporating this quasi-static approach as well. And then a time history full dynamic analysis, can also be performed actually. So today we will be discussing about the case study of Delhi Metro, where, starting from a pseudo-static approach to quasi-static approach and then a full dynamic analysis. We'll be talking about, how different methods can give a different results and which one would be much appropriate to be used actually. So that's what we are going to discuss today. Of course, in tunnel design, one important factor which we need to understand is the flexibility ratio, because what is the relative stiffness of the tunnel lining and the surrounding soil. So that plays a kind of important role. And in fact, there is a reduction factor or a racking coefficient is applied when we do the analysis and design using the free field deformation approach. So this is the free field deformation, and the structural deformation to be applied for the racking analysis is by multiplying the racking coefficient, and this racking coefficient is function of the flexibility ratio actually. And another challenge is the segmental lining being used, so they do have a joints. What would be the effect of these segmental joints, because for a realistic analysis and design, one must model in the numerical analysis also the joint condition as it is, what is prevailing in the field condition actually. So Nagar has actually done an analysis and found out, that the joint stiffness do affect the moment and the thrust that are mobilized in the tunnel lining. So therefore, in our Delhi Metro analysis, we did consider the segmental joining modeling in the analysis. Also, we know that in soil engineering problems, so simplified elastic analysis or elastoplastic analysis, the soil constitutive model do affect finally the output of the moment and the thrust coming on the liner actually. So we do have to choose very judiciously the constitutive soil model depending on the actual soil condition, which is more representatively modeling the behavior. And some of the full dynamic analysis results reported in literature shows that as the PGA increases, you see that both thrust, axial thrust, as well as the bending moment on the lining increases actually. But again, these thrust and the bending moment need to be kind of reduced depending on the flexibility factor, because the flexibility is one of the important factors. So they can be reduced based on the flexibility value actually. So coming to the case study of Delhi Metro, this is a broad, flow chart giving the methodology how we have adopted actually. So we have to arrive at the input parameter. That's a big challenge, representing large number of borehole data. Finally, we have to come up with the input parameters. Again, Delhi having, certain part of Delhi having a shallow water table and a sandy soil condition in Yamuna River Basin, liquefiable. So we had to arrive at the, different constitutive model for liquefiable soil condition and non-liquefiable soil conditions. And again, these, parameters, what you obtain has to be site specific. And again, for seismic loading, we have to also get the, damping characteristics very representative actually. And of course, the challenges are, how to arrive at the site specific ground motion characteristics and how we are going to simulate the segmental joints in the modeling. And also you should be able to ensure the phase stability, which is actually kind of obtained in the TBM machine by applying appropriate phase pressure. So even numerically, you need to apply, appropriate phase pressure value in order to simulate close to the field conditions actually. And the segmental linings are installed by jacking. Even that has to be numerically simulated, and how much jack force we should apply in the numerical analysis, that also is a big challenge. So these are the things, we have actually simulated as close to the field condition as possible in our analysis and design. So of course, we have to arrive at these parameters, because most of the conventional geotechnical investigation report will have only SPT profile. And we did have a shear velocity profile for the Delhi region. So select location, but if not available, then we have used the correlation to convert from the SPT value to arrive at the shear velocity profile actually. So we have used the hardening soil model with small strain stiffness for Delhi soil conditions. And of course, the other dynamic characteristics were obtained from the Hanumantrao and Ramana equations, which are developed for Delhi region actually. And of course, the hysteretic behavior was assumed using the lower bound sand given by seed solution, and these are some of the properties used. So we have actually idealized the whole Delhi into three type of idealized soil profile for which we have carried out the analysis. And another thing is, instead of going for zonal factor for a time history analysis, you need to get the artificial, ground motion which are synthetically generated. So for that, we have used the target response spectrum method for actually, developing a synthetic ground motion for Delhi region. Again, we have used the NDMA guidelines which are given there, considering Bhavana and the Tigri fault, and we have developed the synthetic ground motion, time history of the ground motion actually. So which is for a particular target spectrum, we are able to closely match with, the ground motion giving the same response spectrum. And this synthetic ground motion was, eventually used in the time history analysis. And we can see that, how the phase pressure needs to be obtained for different cover depth, because as the cover depth increases, typically the phase pressure required to be applied increases. And when the phase pressure increases, obviously the phase displacement will reduce. The idea is you should apply a pressure which eventually will have a minimum phase displacement, so that the volume loss is also kind of, restricted to the limiting value, so that the surface structures are affected, not affected actually. And the jack force was also, applied in Delhi Metro, was quantified based on the recommendations of Bloom. And we also verified that the jack force, how much they are applying in the Delhi Metro conditions, which is almost 36 meganewton actually. And we initially started with the free field analysis. And in Delhi, the bedrock varies also from 10 to 80 meter, quite significant. Finally, we have gone for three different, bedrock that we have actually analyzed. And this is the shear stress variation with the depth for different, bedrock conditions. And again, for different ground profile that we have idealized based on large amount of geotechnical data actually. So we can see how the shear strain varies with the depth. And also we can see the acceleration, spectral acceleration at the surface, and the spectral acceleration not 7 meters below the surface. That's why, relatively the underground structures are actually experiencing a less spectral acceleration. That's why they normally assume to be safe actually. So we can see that for a Delhi region, whatever the spectral acceleration, the actual, acceleration based on the synthetic ground motor well within the design spectra. But this is for free field condition. The moment we bring in the tunnel and foundation system, they go in a totally different way. So initially a pseudostatic analysis were done as per IS 1890. And then we have also done some validation problem comparing the Wang solution and the Hassas solution. We can see that liner thrust and the bending moment obtained were actually, comparable by Wang solution. So this shows that the numerical analysis is capable of capturing the tunnel lining behavior actually. And we can compare, the pseudostatic bending moment applied and the quasi-static analysis. We will always find that pseudostatic gives much higher bending moment. They always give a, very conservative forces actually. Of course, this red line shows, for the moment for which it is actually, designed based on the jack forces and other things, insulation forces. So that's why, the lining seems to be safe, because even though there is an increase in bending moment, but the handling stresses and the insulation forces actually govern the design actually. But there are other challenges, which need to be actually, cautiously, monitored, so which we'll be discussing in subsequent slides. And we can see that, how the thrust forces, using pseudostatic 2D and pseudostatic 3D, how they can vary. But the moment we go for the other approach, relatively less actually. And coming to the full dynamic analysis, we have to do the modeling as per, the conventional explicit, method of analysis, choosing the dimension of mesh, everything. And we can see that increase in thrust, with time we are able to see. But all of them, there is not much increase in the, thrust force and the moment, considering the dynamic force. Even effect of joint stiffness also not significantly affecting your forces actually. So for a practical purpose, it says that, the joint stiffness condition can be neglected, for a quick analysis and design, for a practical purpose. And you can see that the increase in thrust is hardly, 3 to 5% only. But of course, when you do the sequential tunneling, the variation, for different, two tunnels, they are not same actually. So they do have, different forces, both moment as well as, not exactly same actually. So you have to simulate the twin tunnel, construction sequence in the modeling as well. And we can see that most of the time the increase in thrust and the bending moment, they are well within the design envelope. So this is the design envelope, positive bending moment for which we have to design. So the increase in forces are well within the design, moment and the design thrust. So therefore, nothing to worry about the design forces, but we need to worry something, the dynamic strain level that is built up on the lining due to, earthquake forces predicted in full dynamic analysis, time history analysis. You can see that along the circumference of the lining, the two solid lines shows what is the strain limit specified by, IS 456 for concrete. And you can see that certainly they are being exceeded. So the exceedance of strain level in the lining will eventually may lead to a crack in the tunnel lining. And these tunnels are underground and maybe below groundwater table. Slowly, there will be a water ingress into the lining, and then they may deteriorate the reinforcement on the lining. There will be a long time deterioration of this tunnel lining, which is really need to be, carefully monitored, and then, appropriate remedial measure to be taken actually. So the major, finding is that the strain level, on the lining because of this, need to be monitored. And this is clearly seen, how the strain level for different cover depth. When it is shallow tunnel, the strain on the left and right tunnels are well within the limit of the concrete. And when it is, relatively depth increases, they are comparable. And at some, at a deeper depth, both left and right tunnel, the strains are much beyond the, permissible limit specified by the IS code. So we have to be really watchful depending on the geometrical conditions, where to put a monitoring of the strain level. And whenever the strain levels are alarming, what is the remedial measures to be taken? So we need to worry about it. And another thing is, we said that, the accelerations are well within the IS code specified limit spectral acceleration. But under the presence of tunnel, there is a channelization of the seismic energy. And we find that, the acceleration in the pillar width region has exceeded the, the IS code spectra. That means any structures located between the tunnel, they need to be designed for higher spectral acceleration. But if you follow IS code guideline, they may be in danger actually. So we have to be watchful when we design any structures between the tunnel in the pillar width region. And we then further went ahead to study the interaction of tunnel shallow foundation system. And we can see that different geometrical size of the foundation aspect ratio is simulated. And we can see that under the presence of tunnel, obviously tunnel being a stiff member, the load capacity increases. So there is an increase in bearing capacity. So as such, if you neglect the tunnel, your bearing capacity wise, we are conservative side. But if you want to economize the design, you can always, take care of the presence of tunnel and consider an increase in the bearing capacity also. But only thing, during the excavation, then there is a sudden drop in settlement. So when the tunnel excavation is happening, the settlement on the footing increases. But after the tunnel is constructed, then again, there is an increase in capacity compared to the load settlement behavior without tunnel actually. So that's what, we have to see. So during tunnel excavation, one has to be careful that settlements are not increasing. But if already tunnel is there, and if you are constructing a foundation, then we need not worry. The green line is, the post-tunnel construction, you are constructing the foundation, where you can see that, how the bearing capacity increases significantly compared to the no tunnel condition actually. So therefore, if you are, interested in taking the advantage of the tunnel, we can do that. But we have to kind of, come up with an estimation with proper numerical simulation actually. And again, as I mentioned, there is a bearing capacity increase, that function of depth of foundation as well as the geometry of the foundation. But by and large, 40 to 60% increase in bearing capacity could be there because of the presence of tunnel actually. And again, when it comes to dynamic load, we can see that the free field acceleration is somewhere here. But when the shallow foundation is there, in the vicinity of the tunnel, we see that the acceleration gets amplified actually, especially at a shallow, tunnel condition, you see that the maximum, acceleration is there actually. So we can see that. And again, similarly, we also did study the tunnel pile foundation interaction problem with no loading condition. That means only pile is there and the tunnel is there. And we also consider vertical load on the pile. We did consider lateral loading on the pile and also pile group configurations actually. So different scenarios of field conditions were modeled. And in this case, we have assumed 1 meter diameter pile, which is most commonly used these days actually, and for which the vertical settlement of permissible settlement of 12 mm is used and a lateral deflection of 10 mm is used actually. We had only modeled the pile up to the invert of the tunnel, because beyond which the load distribution goes much below the tunnel, so the interaction may not be significant actually. And also seismic loading also. For pile group, the permissible settlement of 25 mm as per IS code was used. And we did also a validation problem by comparing Lafayette's data reported on the pile behavior. And then it is found that there is a large, displacement around the pile and the tunnel, for a distance. And they are actually, typically well within the 45-degree line from the springing line actually. So you can see we have plotted a normalized pile settlement curve with the distance from the pile actually, tunnel, and distance between the tunnel and pile. And we can see that when the distance is small, then the deflection starts increasing, and then they reach the full settlement value actually. So similarly, for a loaded condition also, they actually reach the maximum settlement. So the critical distance, for a different cover depth were established actually. So obviously for a shallow depth, that actually they reach the maximum settlement at a very close distance. At a deeper depth, because of confinement, you see that maximum settlement is reached, relatively at a long distance between the pile and tunnel actually. Even the dynamic analysis indicates that there is a settlement obviously is less because of the stiffening effect provided by the tunnel. And also when the pile group width increases, the settlement actually decreases. That group spectra again, is totally different from the free field spectra because of the presence of, your stiff elements, that is both pile as well as the tunnel. They have a different relative stiffness. As a result, the free field response spectrum is totally affected. You can see this is the free field and this is under the presence of, your tunnel and pile. So the frequency content and everything gets shifted. You can clearly see that actually. Seismic settlement seems to be less, so only 3-4 mm, that can be neglected. And again, the same channelization effect is happening. The acceleration, spectral acceleration in the pillar width area is increasing. So as a result, the forces, although settlement is less, the forces coming on the tunnel, the pile, on the pile group, they are increased actually. So therefore, we need to check the pile design for these additional, inertial forces that are coming in a pillar width area actually. So that one has to check actually. To summarize, we may use pseudostatic methods, which are most commonly used in industry, which may be giving in conservative in giving the liner and the liner forces, basically thrust and moments. But the challenge is it cannot give the time variation of these forces, and especially the strain and displacement, other things cannot be predicted by this method. So therefore, although it is conservative, but with respect to deformation and strain, it doesn't give any information. We may use the closed form solution as well for a typical cross section of circular tunnels by Wang, but Wang method seems to give a better solution compared to Penzion method. So for ideal cross sections, we may use the Wang solution as well actually. Of course, the full dynamic analysis is always, more rigorous, and it can simulate the realistic conditions, all the construction sequences. But again, your results, accuracy is function of how accurately you are modeling the site-specific ground motions and what is the appropriate constructive model that you have adopted, and also how accurately you have simulated the construction stages. So accordingly, your results will be varying. But the most critical output that we have come out is the dynamic strain is actually increasing for a certain geometrical conditions and loading condition, which is really alarming. You need to monitor the critical sections identified, and finally, whenever the strains are increasing, then we may need to go for appropriate remedial measures to be adopted actually. So with this, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to interact with the the delegates who are attending this conference, and I would be happy to discuss if there are some queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ayothiraman. Excellent presentation, I must say, and very lucid. We have a few questions. Are you able to see those questions, or should I read it out for you?
I am able to see that. So, yeah.
Great.
So, thank you very much for this huge amount of. My question is, could we consider radial or horseshoe-shaped tunnels more efficient to resist earthquake loads compared to other cross sections? Actually, so as I have mentioned, see, we have the earthquake-induced forces are actually, coming. The increase in thrust and moments are kind of nominal only. Of course, it depends on the flexibility. For a Delhi region, if you see the Delhi soil conditions are relatively, dense and stiff. If you see the Delhi, especially where the underground metro tunnels there, so the n value is slightly large actually. So therefore, in this case, we have found out to be marginally less, but there can be increase in force as well, as we have seen in some of the cases. But the question is, the still the installation forces like jack forces and the other handling forces, they are already, governing actually the, design forces. So therefore, I don't think the shape of the tunnel would be a significant thing in terms of the design forces. But of course, as I mentioned, the strain level would be totally different. Right now, we have done for a circular tunnel. If you come up with the horseshoe or other shape of tunnel, the strain developed on the lining would be different, which we need to study actually. And the second question is, have you come across any case in India where TBM had to, TBM had to go through an existing pile foundation supporting a building, and how did you tackle the load flow? Yeah, I think there are several cases, where the not only the pile foundation, even there are heritage structures, which has come across, on the alignment of the TBM tunneling, and they have been monitored. So the extensive monitoring is done, for those pile foundation supported structures on the heritage structures as well. And then whenever there is an alarming, then appropriate remedial measures were adopted. Actually, there are a lot of examples. Yes.
Yeah, one more question from mine, because there have been several low intensity earthquakes since 1998. That's when the first Delhi Metro was planned. And obviously, you would have had some PGA acceleration measurements and other instrumentation which would have measured these low intensity earthquakes. And was there like an effort to match those field findings with the constitutive modeling and trying to extrapolate or generate the responses so you are more on the right curve? I mean, is that a continuous effort? How is that like?
Yeah, we are working with DMRC also. We are trying to collect this field monitoring data of these, buildings for which the deformations are monitored. And we do have the earthquake data for the, the earthquake that have happened. But only thing, the design spectra is for a magnitude of 7. So so if you see these magnitudes are relatively low, whatever these earthquakes have happened actually.
Yes, they are much lower. They're much lower.
Much lower. So therefore, the exact correlations, because this monitoring, especially during tunneling, was done. So as such, the continuous monitoring is actually in the pipeline. The problem that we are talking about, monitoring of the strain at the critical cross section, that is not being implemented. So whereas so this is the proposal, we are working with them. And once this data continuous monitoring is available, what you are suggesting is that that's a very good suggestion. We can really, come up with, even for those lowest magnitude, we can do back analysis and do some.
Correct, because then you can refine the model. I think that is something I thought that was being done, but okay, I understood. Okay, great.
That's a very good suggestion, sir. That we can. Yes.
Okay. Sure. So with this, thank you, sir. Thank you once again for the presentation. I request Dr. Amarnath Hegde to take over from here for the rest of the presentations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Co-Chair. Thank you,
sir. Yeah.